Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, they're going to have a fun and exciting video for you guys today because we're going to be taking a look at an active decompilation project for Super Mario 64. But obviously we're not talking about the Nintendo 64 version of the game, we're talking about the Nintendo DS version of the game, which just has far and away way more content and additional areas to explore than the N64 original. But it definitely is not without its shortcomings, because if you played this back in the day on a Nintendo DS, you will remember that we didn't actually have analog controls. So Nintendo basically pivoted up this to a D-pad, and while it was effective, it definitely wasn't as good of a feel as what you would get on an N64 or on later Nintendo handheld hardware. But the fact is, a developer going by the names of Beans and Toasted sent me a link to this over on Reddit, and I decided you guys would probably enjoy it as a video. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But before we get too far into the meat of the video, I have a question for you guys. How did Yoshi get from the top of the castle down to ground level while still asleep? Is it canon that Yoshi sleepwalks in the world of Super Mario 64, or did he get towed down here by the fishing hook like a Mario Kart that's gone into the river or off a ravine? It has nothing to do with the video whatsoever, but I've always thought it's amusing that you see Yoshi asleep on the top of the castle, and he somehow gets all the way down here without actually having to worry about waking up. And honestly, I think this is about Princess Peach right here, not about the rabbit. And if you missed that, go back and pause it and you'll get the joke. But honestly, a decomp project of this I think would be fundamentally amazing. Obviously, I need to inform you guys again that a decomp does not necessarily mean a PC port is automatic. Once you decompile a game to 100%, that means you can start a port, but it isn't an automated process. But think about a universe in which we had a perfect port of something like Super Mario 64 DS with analog control, free camera, and everything else that you see in all of the Super Mario 64 PC ports and static recomps. I think this game is absolutely amazing and I'd love to play it, but again, it is definitely rough around the edges. But something like a PC port could definitely smooth out all those edges into a perfect sphere, giving us one of the smoothest and most content-filled versions of Super Mario 64, because Nintendo is definitely still willing to sell you guys a ROM on NSO to play Super Mario 64, but I've never seen them really touch the DS version of the game whatsoever, and that definitely bums me out. Because when Super Mario 64 first came out, everyone fell in love with it, and when I found out there was a new version for a handheld I owned that had even more content, I was all over it and enjoyed the ever-loving hell out of it back in the day. But now I want to see this thing in widescreen 16:9. I want to see improved graphics and internal rendering resolutions like I'm doing here on Melon DS. I want that analog control, I want a free camera, and I want all the mods you could possibly get. Because think of everything the Super Mario 64 community has done on the port and recomp side of things. Now imagine them doing the exact same thing, but in something like Super Mario 64 DS would be absolutely outstanding. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual GitHub repository here, and I will leave a link in the description below as I always do. You're going to see that right now the functions are about 35% decompiled, and the code is getting around 10% of its overall size. Now this is definitely still early in development, but it is showing progress, and again, going from 0% to something like 10% can take as long as going from 35% to 100%. We're never quite sure exactly how long it's going to take, so leave your expectations in check here. It's not like you're going to be playing a Super Mario 64 DS PC port in the next 2-3 months. My guess would be it's probably going to be 6 months or so until you see this thing hit 100% decompilation status, and it definitely seems like it's going to be worth the wait. Because I, again, can't stress enough just how much fun the Nintendo DS version of Super Mario 64 is, but also how much, at least in my opinion, of a struggle it is to sit down, enjoy, and play. Because you have the camera on something like the touchscreen below you, and even on real hardware, basically Nintendo tried to fit a square peg into a round hole and make all of this work. And they were definitely more successful than they were unsuccessful, but it was always going to be a little bit of a limitation, trying to put a game like Super Mario 64 onto a handheld without an analog stick, and then requiring people to use the secondary screen for functions of the game. And with something like a decomp, a lot of those functions could be changed. You could do stuff like actually assign a lot of the button inputs to actual touchscreen controls. That way you could press a button and it would actually articulate the touchscreen. Or you could basically remove it completely and turn this into a one-screen experience, and that is definitely something I would love to see. And if you're wondering what matching is, it means that once you decompile it, if you use the same toolchain to recompile, you'll get a byte-to-byte match with the original game. So chew on that while you listen to this soundtrack sample. I mean, super fun soundtrack, obviously on the N64 version. It's great here on DS as well. And I really actually like some of the new writing that they put into this game. It's a little bit more creative, and it's a little bit more charming, and just kind of expands upon the world of Super Mario 64 from the base version of the game. And that's why this was so fun and exciting back when it came out, and why I still love playing it today. Because I've done so many videos on different Super Mario 64 recomps and source ports, all of the different variations and permutations of what you can play out there. So why not bring DS into the party? And that's what Beans and Toasted is trying to do here. But I can't stress enough, this is a very monumental task. Even decompiling something like a DS game takes a very long time, and you need to be able to 100% match the decompiled code back to that base ROM. And again, when I say that, it means that once you decompile it, if you recompile it, you get the exact same checksum off the new file. It is a byte for byte match. And if you want more in-depth information, the GitHub has a ton of that, probably way too nitty-gritty, deep and detailed for something like a top-level YouTube video, but I appreciate it's there, and if you are curious, go ahead and read through the entire thing, because you'll definitely learn a few things here and there, and that is always worth it and important. Now if we take a look at the decompilation heat map, you will see here that anything in green means it's been 100% decompiled and matched. If it's in gray, that means it is not done yet. And that is where you kind of see that the functions matched are at 36.15%. You just have to basically, if you combine that green together into one blob and then put it over the gray, you would notice it was about 35% of the entire code base. So this one still has a lot of progress to go, but we've seen a lot of decomps go from 35 to 75% this year pretty quickly. Now I'm not guaranteeing that, but you'll see here on the left, that is just the ARM9 code or the CPU code for Super Mario 64 DS, and that is definitely progressing along nicely. And I just can't tell you enough, if you've never played this game before, I might not even wait for a potential PC port. Just load it up on Melon DS, upscale the ever-loving hell out of it, try to mod the controls to your heart's content to get something that feels pretty natural, and just go from there, because it is such a fun game, and it's one of those things you can totally wait for a potential PC port, but I can't stress enough that decompilations don't guarantee those things, because we've seen other projects hit 100% decompiled status, and we don't have any word on any port being in the works. Now it's possible that some of those are being done in the background and nobody knows about it, or it's possible that there's still going to be years until we see it. But there's so much more content in this one. If you love Super Mario 64, if you love all the PC ports, and you just think to yourself, I would love to play more of the same game, then DS absolutely has you covered in spades. And that's why a decompilation is so important. And I would assume that probably if some of the stuff actually gets decompiled out of this, it could be useful to be modded back into Super Mario 64, the base N64 version of the game. So it would be useful, not just for a port, but also for experimenting around with what else could be done in the engine and in the builds of Super Mario 64 that we do have. And that is just exciting, because this is absolutely video game preservation of its highest order, and I do love talking about this stuff on the channel because it keeps the games alive longer. But one more soundtrack sample and I'll be right back. Just absolutely an iconic track that I will never get sick of hearing, and I'm sure you won't either. And honestly, the Nintendo DS has a ton of amazing exclusives that I think could all be better if they were decompiled and brought over to PC. Because even still today, with the best of emulation, as far as actually dealing with the dual screens is concerned, you either need to have a monitor that's turned on its side, or you need to have original hardware, because trying to use a horizontal format 16:9 monitor with two screens up and down just doesn't work for me, and honestly, having them left and right always confuses my brain a little bit. And that isn't a knock against DS emulation or Melon DS. I think it does an absolutely outstanding job, and in games that don't really utilize the second screen or touch too much, it is my preferred way to play. And for the most part, something like Super Mario 64 DS is 95% a top screen only game, but it does require you to move over to the bottom screen every once in a while, and that is something I would love to see eliminated or made to work better in something like an actual PC port in the future. So this decompilation is definitely exciting, and as a progressive, I will definitely give you guys updates, but you tell me down below again, if you could snap your fingers and make one Nintendo DS game suddenly show up as a perfect PC port with no issues whatsoever, which one would it be? Mine's going to be very obvious. I would love to see this actually get put on PC with a ton of quality of life improvements and everything else to match. And that's just one of those things. I love this game. It is so nostalgic and I just want more. But I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.